guys, welcome back to my channel. Season 2, episode 4 of The Last Kingdom. The last episode starts off, we see Uhtred is a slave. We see what he has to go through as a slave. Horrible conditions. They're given no food, no water. Halleck is also there with him. Then this whole thing happens where they try to make this move to escape. They end up getting captured and Halleck ends up getting tortured and killed. He was tied to the front of the ship. The whole situation is just really fucked up and sad because Halleck is the last person that I thought deserved a punishment like that. I don't know, with Halleck's whole death, it was just really sad to me because one, he didn't deserve it, and two, it was just really fucked up that Uhtred kind of played a role in killing him, not by his choice, but he was being forced to row the boat and Halleck was tied to the front of the boat. I'm really glad that they focused on Uhtred when he got rescued by Ragnar, you know, when that whole Sven interaction happened and Ragnar and Hild rode in and saved Uhtred. I'm really glad that they focused on Uhtred kind of having PTSD about that whole slavery situation, and they kind of focused on him dealing with the after effects of it. I also really like this new character that they introduced, Finan. I think that he's going to become one of my favorites if he stays around long enough to become one of my favorites. As for my favorite characters right now, I'm not gonna lie, Alfred is like, I might like Alfred a little bit more than Uhtred, honestly. I like Hild. Hild is probably my number one. Alfred I love. And who would be my third? I guess by default Uhtred would be my third, but I do really enjoy all the characters on this show. I would say Hild is probably my number one, but we really haven't seen the new characters that have been introduced, like Gisela and Finan last episode. I'm excited to see a little bit more of their stories and their characters develop. So Uhtred is now working with Alfred again. He really didn't have a choice. Uhtred's whole justification for saying no was that he didn't want to be a slave again. I understand what he was saying with that whole argument with working for Alfred. No matter how much jurisdiction he would have, no matter how much freedom he would have, at the end of the day he would still be working for Alfred, so he would essentially be a slave. So I understand why he wouldn't want to do that again. Alfred even said last episode he really missed Uhtred working with him, so I'm kind of glad that they're working together again. I want to see how Uhtred and Alfred's dynamic, if at all, if it changes. As for Uhtred's goals right now, he has two just main priorities. One is revenge. He wants to kill Kiaton and Sven for the murder of his family and for taking his sister. I totally forgot about his sister. His sister is a slave, so they gotta somehow figure out how to get her as well. And then two, take back Bebbanburg from his uncle, who is also a problem and is also rallying up allies right now. So Uhtred has a few problems, but it's nothing that's not manageable. I think now that he has Alfred, I think that everything is going to get easier because Alfred is kind of the brains of the situation and Uhtred is kind of just the executioner. So yeah, I guess those are all of my thoughts. Without further ado, let's get into episode 4. Okay, a lot of stuff just happened. Let's go over what happened. This episode was a lot. This episode was really all about Uhtred and Ragnar's revenge on Kiaton and Sven for killing their family. I didn't think that they were going to resolve this whole revenge plot this early on in the season, but wow, episode 4. I mean, I guess we're halfway through the season. I thought that this revenge was going to be pushed all the way back, but then when they said that they were going to Dunholm, I was like, really? Like, this episode, like, damn. I don't know what it is about the battles in this show, but I really enjoy them because they're very, like, raw. They're very realistic, and they're also super intense, and I just really enjoy that aspect about them. Uhtred said that Dunholm is Ragnar's now. He said that Ragnar deserved it instead of Guthred was gonna get it, but then Uhtred basically threatened Guthred and was like, this isn't gonna happen. Yeah, Guthred's a fucking weirdo, man. I don't know if I really like him. You know, I can never tell when he's being genuine and when he's faking it, if he's ever faking it or joking, or I really can't like read his character, his personality, and it seems like he can't really get a solid read on himself. He needs to make up his mind as to what his personality is, I think that's his problem. The most satisfying scene in this episode was probably the Ragnar and Kiaton scene. It happened right after the battle too. I like how there was really no end, like specific end to the battle. It kind of just transitioned into the fight between Kiaton and Ragnar. So it was a really satisfying fight. Towards the end it started to get a little bit like, ooh, like a little bit much. Everybody around him was looking on in horror by the end of it because he just kept on stabbing Kiaton. Even Brita was looking on like, yo, I think that's enough. It just went to show how satisfying that revenge was for Ragnar, but also how painful it was. And even Uhtred, I think Uhtred's expressions during the killing of Kiaton really proved that. Just how the brothers were affected by what Kjartan and Sven did to their entire family and what they did to their sister. So I think that revenge was probably super satisfying to them. Speaking of their sister, she was also a part of one of the more emotional scenes in this episode. Maybe not emotional, but just interesting, when she was about to literally release her dogs on Uhtred and Ragnar. Father Bayoka stepped in and eased the situation, kind of calmed her down, and I think that that's maybe going to be a developing relationship. I would not have expected them to develop a bond, but I guess that's gonna happen. It seems like it's gonna happen from the screen time that both of them had this episode. So that's gonna be, I think that's a very interesting relationship. And Father Bayoka was good in this episode as always. He's probably the MVP for actually calming down Tura. So Tura also had a satisfying scene when she released the hounds on Sven. That was super satisfying. Also, not the first time that a redhead released her dogs on her abuser. So we love that. We love to see it. He wholeheartedly deserved it, though. He's been a piece of shit ever since he was a kid. So I'm glad that he's gone. Glad that Kjartan's gone. And I guess I'm glad that whole storyline got wrapped up. And it was just a satisfying episode, honestly. This was a pretty victorious episode. So with this whole storyline wrapping up, the Kjartan and Sven storyline, I guess it's going to transfer over to Alfred's whole situation and that whole storyline that's happening, because Aethelwald said something really interesting this episode when he was talking to Uhtred. I don't remember the exact quote, but I think it was something along the lines of, Uhtred, Alfred is using you. He's not really looking out for your best interest. And Uhtred kind of just brushed it off and said, I need to do what I need to do in order to get what I want, achieve my goal. But I think Aethelwald was basically countering and saying that you're not going to get what you want because Alfred is using you and he's not going to follow through with any of the promises that he makes. At least that's what I got. That's what I read from that whole conversation. Alfred has clearly gone through a change. He's smart. He's super tactical, but I think now the difference with him is that we're seeing this Alfred that is solely about achieving his own goals and will do anything possible to get there. That's kind of scary. I really don't know how that's going to impact Uhtred, because Uhtred's goal at the end of the day is to get back Bebbanburg from his uncle. And his uncle's a wild card because his uncle can make any allies that he really wants. I don't think it's going to be as easy as Uhtred thinks it's going to be. You know, getting back Bebbanburg from his uncle and everything. I don't think it's going to be that easy, especially with Alfred having his own motives, kind of, and that being exposed very much so this episode. So yeah, I guess I'm just interested to see how Uhtred handles everything. I mean, he needs to go right back to Wessex after this whole thing, or Alfred's gonna send someone to kill him. Someone that's with him right now will kill him. If that doesn't go to show, like, how manipulative Alfred is, or will become, like, I don't know, if that's any indication of how, like, this whole season is gonna play out, then I'm kind of scared for the relationship of Alfred and Uhtred. I don't think that relationship is gonna survive. So yeah, I guess those are all of my thoughts. As always, thank you guys for watching. Check out my other reactions if you have not already. And stay tuned for episode 5. Alright, bye guys.